The stars were silent that night. A lone human explorer walked through the ruins of a forgotten alien colony. Dust covered broken homes, shattered towers, and empty streets. It looked like a world where laughter had died long ago. The man's boots echoed on stone paths as he searched for signs of life. But there was nothing, only silence and the cold breath of the wind. He wondered who had lived here, what stories had been lost, and why this place had fallen then. In the corner of a collapsed shelter, his eyes caught a faint glimmer. He bent down and brushed away the dust. It was a small object, old but still strong, made of strange silver metal. When he opened it, he realized it was not just metal. It was a diary. The pages inside were written in a child's hand. Curved letters, uneven lines, and little drawings filled the book. He turned the first page and froze. The words were simple but heavy. "This is my dream. Though no one believes me, the diary belonged to a young alien girl. She wrote about her life, poor and lonely. Her people did not care for children who were weak. Her body was fragile, her lungs often failing her. Yet her heart carried something bigger than her pain. She dreamed of the stars. She dreamed of flying like the human ships she had seen crossing her skies. In her words there was no anger, only hope. She wanted nothing more than to be free, to rise, to touch the sky." The explorer kept reading. Every page felt like a whisper from the past. It was as if she was still there, sitting beside him, telling her story. He could almost hear her voice, soft and full of longing. Her words painted pictures of nights spent watching the sky. She described the sound of engines roaring above her world. She dreamed of sitting inside one of those ships, of breathing fresh air and seeing suns no one on her planet had ever seen. But her people's laws were cruel. Weak children were told to stay quiet, to stop dreaming. She wrote that no one listened to her, no one believed in her dreams. So she poured her heart into the diary, hiding it away from those who would laugh. The explorer felt his chest grow tight. This was no ordinary diary. It was a treasure of a broken soul, a child who had been silenced by her own kind. Yet her words still shone like fire, surviving the fall of her people. He reached the last page that had survived the years. Her final entry was short, written in a shaking hand. "If only someone could give me wings, I would never stop flying." The explorer closed the book, his hands trembling. The ruins around him felt different now. They were no longer just broken stone. They were the grave of a dreamer, a child who had wanted the impossible. The silence of the colony seemed to carry her voice. Echoing in the air, he stood there for a long time, holding the diary to his chest. Why did her words feel so close to his heart? Why did he, a human, feel her sorrow as if it was his own? Questions circled in his mind, but one truth became clear. This girl had been poor, weak, and forgotten. Yet her dream was not small. It was vast, shining, and endless. She had wanted the stars. And that dream had survived in her diary. The explorer whispered to himself. Who was she? Why did no one help her? And why does her dream feel like it belongs to all of us? He did not know it yet, but this diary would change his life. Her words would burn inside him, refusing to fade, and soon he would decide to do something no human had ever dared. The dream of a poor alien girl was about to awaken in the heart of a human, and that was only the beginning. The diary opened again in the explorer's hands. The pages smelled of dust and time, but the words felt alive. He turned to the next entries, eager, almost afraid to hear more of her voice. The little alien girl wrote about her mornings. She woke up weak, her chest hurting. Her breath shallow, food was always scarce in her home. Her parents worked hard but had little, and most of it went to stronger children. She often went to bed hungry, her stomach aching. But she never complained in her diary. Instead, she filled the pages with her secret thoughts. She drew small pictures of ships with wings like birds. She wrote about the sound they made when they passed over her village. She wondered what it felt like to be inside, looking down on the world instead of looking up. Her people lived under strict rules. The Council of Elders believed in strength. Only the healthy children were trained for the future. The weak were left behind, treated as shadows. She wrote how the elders would glance at her with pity, then look away. To them she was invisible, a child without value, but in her heart, she refused to be invisible. She wrote about watching the human ships with shining eyes. She dreamed of touching the controls, hearing the engines roar. She dreamed of stars brighter than suns, of colors no one on her world had seen. Her words were filled with hope, yet they were also sharp with loneliness. The explorer could almost see her, a small child sitting near a cracked window, clutching her diary, her eyes big and filled with dreams. While the world outside ignored her, she wrote that other children laughed at her, calling her foolish. They told her she could never fly, never see the stars, never matter. But still she wrote, still she dreamed, still she believed in her own way. One entry shook the explorer deeply. She had written after being sick for many days. Her lungs had almost failed her. She wrote, "When I could not breathe, I saw the stars in my dreams, and I felt no pain there." The words were simple, but they carried both innocence and tragedy. The explorer's fingers trembled as he read. How much pain had this child endured? And yet she had never written with hatred. Her words did not curse her people or her sickness. Instead, she kept drawing stars, skies, and ships. She clung to beauty even as her life crumbled. In another entry, she described sneaking out of her home at night. She walked to the highest hill near her village. She coughed, stumbled, but still climbed at the top. She looked at the night sky and whispered her dream into the darkness. She wrote, "Maybe the stars can hear me. Maybe they will carry my wish where no one else will." The explorer felt his chest grow heavy. He imagined her small figure standing alone under the sky, a weak child daring to speak to the universe. No army, no council, no law, just one fragile voice asking to be heard. The diary pages grew darker as she revealed more. Her family began to fear for her. They told her to stop writing about flying, to stop filling her head with impossible ideas. They worried the council would punish them for raising a foolish child. She wrote that her father burned some of her drawings. She cried but did not fight. Instead, she promised herself to hide her diary where no fire could reach. She wrote, "If I cannot fly in life, then at least my words will fly in time." That one line froze the explorer. It was as if she had known long ago that someone like him would find her voice. Her diary was not just a book, it was her wings, words carrying her dream forward, waiting for a human heart to open them. The explorer closed his eyes for a moment. He could almost feel her presence beside him. She was not a ghost, not just a memory. She was alive in every word, and she was still struggling even after death through him. Her pain had crossed time and space. Now it sat heavy in his own chest, demanding to be heard. The last entries of this section were filled with fear. She wrote that her sickness was growing worse. The elders whispered that she would not last the next season. Her parents grew silent as if already mourning her. But even then, she wrote one final promise. "If I am gone, maybe the stars will remember me. Maybe one day someone will carry my dream into the sky." The explorer's hands shook as he shut the diary again. His heart thundered in his chest. This was no longer just a child's story, it was a challenge. A call from the past, daring him to act, daring him to give life to her impossible wish. In that moment, the explorer knew this was not just about reading, not about feeling sorry. This was about answering her struggle with action. Her voice had reached him, and now it would never leave him. Her pain, her hope, her struggle. Now it was his burden too. And somewhere deep inside the thought grew, maybe he could do something. Maybe he could turn her dream into reality, even if the galaxy itself tried to stop him. The explorer sat in the ruins with the diary pressed against his chest. The alien child's words echoed inside him like a song that would not fade. Her hope, her pain, her unbroken dream, they had taken root in his heart. He could not let go, not now, not ever. He opened the diary again. The last page was short. Her writing weak but brave. "If only someone could give me wings, I would never stop flying." Those words burned into him. They felt less like a wish and more like a command, as if she had left them behind for him alone. He stood among the broken walls and whispered, "I will not let your dream die." His voice cracked, but his resolve grew stronger. In that moment, the explorer made a promise. He would find a way to give her wings, even if she was gone, even if the galaxy stood against him. The ruins were silent, but it felt as if the air itself was listening, as if the stars above had heard his vow. The explorer knew he was only one man, but humans had always done the impossible, and now he would do it again, not for himself, but for a forgotten child. He began searching the colony for answers. Old machines lay broken under the dust, records half burned and forgotten, but bits of truth shone through. He discovered why her people had silenced her dreams. They were cursed with weak lungs. Their bodies could not survive long beyond their homeworld. To them, the sky was not freedom, it was death. Her people had accepted this curse as law. They believed no child should dream of leaving. But she had dared to, and for that she was left behind. The explorer clenched his fists. The galaxy might have given her weak lungs, but he would give her something stronger. At night he sat with the diary beside him. He read her words again and again. Each line filled him with fire. He whispered back to her as if she could hear. "You are not forgotten. You are not weak. I will build your wings." But fear grew in him too. He knew the laws of the galaxy. Tampering with alien life was forbidden. Altering biology was a crime against the Council. The punishment was death. Still, when he thought of her small hands writing in the dark, when he remembered her promise to the stars, he could not stop. Her dream mattered more than their laws. He began sketching designs in his notebook. Ideas flowed like lightning through his mind. Machines that could breathe for her kind. Lungs made not of flesh but of steel and life. Artificial, strong, eternal, he called them her wings, because to him, the power to breathe was the power to fly. Each night he worked in secret. Each morning he returned to the ruins to read her diary again. Her words guided him like a map. She had wanted freedom. She had wanted the stars. And now he was shaping that dream with his hands. But as the work grew, so did the shadows around him. He felt eyes watching. The ruins were empty. Yet sometimes he heard soft steps, a whisper of movement when no wind blew. Someone or something knew what he was doing. Still, he pressed on. He could not stop now. The promise burned too deeply. One night, while he worked, he spoke aloud to the diary. "You asked for wings. Little one, I will build them for you. And I swear on the stars you will fly." His voice shook with both fear and hope. He knew he was walking into danger. But for the first time in years he felt alive. Humans had always built ships to conquer the stars. But this was different. This was not conquest. Not pride. This was love. The pure love of one being carrying another's dream. It was the heart of humanity. The reason why no law, no council, no fear could ever hold him back. He remembered Earth's history. Stories of humans defying kings and empires for the sake of freedom. Stories of humans who built wings of wood and fire to touch the sky. Now he was part of that same story, except his wings were for someone else. For a girl whose voice had been silenced. The explorer finished another sketch and set his tools aside. He looked at the stars through a broken ceiling. They seemed brighter tonight. Maybe because he had promised to carry her dream. Maybe because the universe was waiting to see if he would succeed. He closed the diary gently. "I will not fail you," he whispered. And though the ruins gave no reply, he felt an answer deep inside his chest. The girl's struggle was now his promise. Her dream was now his mission. And the galaxy would soon learn what it meant when a human decided to make a dream real. The explorer's promise had taken root like fire in his chest. But promises alone could not change the stars. He needed a plan, and he knew it had to be forbidden. The kind of plan no human should ever dare. He sat in the ruins night after night. With the alien girl's diary beside him and his own notebook open, he studied her people's history, their weakness, their curse, and at last he understood. Her kind had lungs too fragile for the universe. They could breathe only the thick, heavy air of their home, but the stars required more. The stars demanded strength. The explorer's hands moved over the page. He drew the shape of lungs not born of flesh, tubes and chambers, light yet strong. A heart of steel that could breathe for her people, not just on their world but anywhere in the galaxy. He paused and stared at the design. His heart beat fast. It was more than just a machine, it was freedom. It was her wings hidden inside her chest. But he knew the danger. The laws of the Galactic Council were clear. No human could interfere with alien biology. To change another species was seen as a crime. The Council feared chaos. They feared humans would play gods, and for that reason, the punishment was death. Still, the explorer whispered to the diary, "They can call it crime, and they can call it madness, but I call it hope." His voice shook, but his hands were steady. He began to build. He scavenged parts from the ruins. Old machines, broken engines, forgotten tools. He carried them back to his shelter piece by piece. Every sound in the night made him glance over his shoulder, for the shadows in the ruins seemed to move. Someone was watching, though no one appeared. Each day he worked in silence. Each night he read from the diary. Her words kept him alive. She had believed when no one else did. Now it was his turn to believe for her. The work was slow. Metal bent and wires sparked. Many times he failed, but humans were stubborn creatures. Failure only made him sharper. His tools grew worn, his hands cut and burned. Yet he never stopped. He whispered to the diary each night, "You wanted wings. I will finish them. You will fly." The shadows grew closer. Sometimes he heard footsteps in the dark. Sometimes he found things moved when he returned. Tools shifted, pages of the diary touched by unseen hands. But whoever watched him never revealed themselves. And so the explorer pressed on. Weeks turned into months at last. The first prototype was ready. A pair of lungs small enough to fit inside a chest. They glowed faintly with power. They hummed like a quiet heart. The explorer lifted them with trembling hands. "This is it," he whispered. "Her wings." But then the fear struck. If the council discovered his work, they would come for him if they destroyed it. The dream would die with him. He wrapped the lungs in cloth and hid them deep beneath the ruins. Only the diary knew where. Only he and the dead child shared the secret. That night he could not sleep. The stars above seemed sharp and cold. He imagined the council's judgment. He imagined chains, trial, and fire. But then he imagined her face, eyes lifted to the sky, whispering her dream into the dark, and the fear melted away. He rose, walked back to the hidden chamber, unwrapped the lungs and set them gently on the table. He touched them as if they were alive, and in that moment he swore again, "No law will stop this. No council, no empire, no death. For her, I will finish." The ruins seemed to hold their breath. The silence was heavy, almost waiting, and deep in the shadows, unseen eyes watched with trembling hands. Someone else had heard his vow. Someone else had seen the forbidden plan come to life. The explorer did not yet know, but his work was no longer his secret alone. The dream of the poor alien girl had awakened more than his heart. It had stirred the ruins. It had called to those still hiding, and soon, the truth would step from the shadows. For now, the explorer only knew one thing. The forbidden plan had begun, and there was no turning back. The forbidden lungs glowed softly in the explorer's hands. They were no longer just machines, they were wings, waiting for someone to wear them. And yet the closer he came to finishing, the heavier the fear grew. The laws of the galaxy were not whispers. They were chains wrapped around every world. The Galactic Council ruled with iron rules. One of those rules was simple. No human may alter alien life. No human may give what nature had taken away. To do so was not only forbidden, it was seen as betrayal. The explorer knew this. He had memorized every law, every punishment. But he also knew the words of the diary. A child's dream was more sacred than the laws of empires, and so he worked in silence. Nights turned into long hours of grinding and shaping metal. Sparks lit the ruins like fireflies. He stitched wires and sealed chambers. His hands shook with exhaustion. But every time he felt weak, he touched the diary. The words gave him strength again. Still, the fear did not leave at times. He imagined hearing the council's ships cutting through the sky. He imagined soldiers breaking through the ruins, chains closing around his wrists, the lungs ripped from his hands and cast into fire. But then in his mind he heard her voice, the girl whispering, "Do not stop, please, do not stop," and so he pressed on. The shadows in the ruins grew bolder. Once, while he worked, a stone fell behind him. He spun around, but the place was empty. Another time, he returned to find the cloth covering the lungs had been moved. Someone was close, closer than ever, and yet they did not strike, they only watched. The explorer's heart grew restless. Was it an enemy or a witness? Was it danger? Or someone who carried the same pain as the diary's owner? Days blurred into weeks. His shelter filled with scraps of metal and broken tools. The air smelled of oil and burnt wires. His hands bled from cuts, but he did not care. The promise mattered more than his own life. Each night he returned to the diary. He read the lines again and again. The girl's struggles became his fire, her hunger, her weakness, her lonely climb to the hill where she spoke to the stars. Every word tied him tighter to his work, until he was no longer building just for her. He was building for all who had been silenced. For every weak voice crushed by law, the forbidden lungs grew more complete. They now breathed with a faint rhythm. Air passed through them as if they were alive. The explorer pressed his ear to the machine. It sounded like a heart beating, and for a moment he believed it truly was alive. But danger was near. He saw lights in the night sky one evening. Not stars, but patrol ships. The council's eyes sweeping across the ruined world. He threw a cloth over the lungs and hid them deep underground. Sweat poured down his face. If they found him, everything would end. The ships passed. The night grew quiet again, but his heart did not slow. He knew the council was near. They could sense rebellion like a predator smells blood. Still, he did not stop when morning came. He pulled the lungs out again. He worked faster, harder. The shadows in the ruins seemed to whisper warnings, but his hands moved like fire. Every strike of his tool was defiance. Every spark was rebellion. One night, exhausted, he whispered to the diary, "They will kill me if they find me. But if I stop, her dream dies forever." His voice cracked. "I cannot let her dream die." The ruins seemed to listen. The shadows held their breath, and far away, in the cold halls of the council, unseen judges would soon feel the ripple of his crime. By the time he sealed the last chamber, his body was weak, but his eyes burned with light. The lungs were ready. They glowed like silver fire. Alive, powerful, forbidden. The explorer fell back against the wall. Breathing hard, he had done it. He had created the impossible. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. The council would not stay blind for long, and the shadow in the ruins would not stay hidden forever. The true battle was only starting. A battle between law and dream, between empire and hope, between death and the wings of a forgotten child. The explorer closed the diary one last time that night. He placed the lungs beside it. His promise was complete, but the price was yet to come. The explorer's hands trembled as he set the lungs beside the diary. The machines glowed faintly in the dark. Alive yet silent, he had done it, but his heart refused to rest, for the shadows in the ruins had grown heavier. He rose, listening. The night air carried a sound, soft and uneven, a breath, a cough, a faint shuffle of feet. He was no longer alone. The watcher had stepped closer. He called out, his voice sharp, "Who's there?" No answer, only silence. He took a step forward, holding a broken rod in his hand. The ruins swallowed the sound of his footsteps. Then from behind a cracked wall a figure appeared. It was not a soldier, not a council spy, it was a woman. Frail and trembling, her skin was pale, her frame thin. Her breath was shallow, each inhale a battle. She raised her hands slowly, showing she carried no weapon. "I mean no harm," she whispered. Her voice was weak, almost broken. The explorer lowered his rod but kept his guard. "Who are you?" he demanded. The woman's eyes glistened with tears. I am her sister," she said, the words struck like thunder. The explorer froze, staring. Her sister, alive here in the ruins. The diary in his hand suddenly felt heavier. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The woman stepped closer, her knees shaking. Her eyes fell on the diary. When she saw it, she gasped. Tears ran down her cheeks. "That was hers," she whispered. "She wrote every night, hiding from us. Hiding from everyone." The explorer held it out slowly. She touched the cover with trembling fingers. Her lips quivered as she whispered her sister's name. Her whole body shook as if the weight of years had fallen back on her. "I thought it was lost," she cried. "I thought her dream died with her." Her voice cracked. She is gone, long gone, but her words, they live." The explorer's chest tightened. The shadow he had feared was no enemy. It was blood of the dreamer, a voice connected to the very one who had written the diary. The woman coughed violently, struggling for breath. The explorer rushed forward to steady her. Her chest heaved, every inhale a battle. And in that moment he understood. She carried the same weakness. The same fragile lungs that had chained her sister to the ground. He looked at her, then at the glowing lungs on the table. This is why I built them," he whispered. The woman's eyes widened. She stared at the machines with shock and disbelief. You built wings," she said. Her voice trembled as hope and fear mixed within it, but then her face hardened with terror. "You do not understand," she gasped. "The council will kill you for this. They will kill anyone who touches such things." Her hands shook as she tried to push the lungs away. "Destroy them before they find you." The explorer shook his head. "No," he said firmly, "I promised her, I promised the stars. And I promised myself. These wings are not just machines, they are her dream." The woman's tears fell harder. She sank to her knees, clutching the diary. "My sister, she wanted the sky so badly," she whispered, "but we buried her without it." Her voice cracked like glass. "And now you bring it back." The The explorer knelt beside her, his eyes burned with resolve. Her dream will not end in the grave, he said. You are her blood. You are her voice now. I cannot give them to her, but I can give them to you. The woman shook her head, fear still strong. If I wear them, the council will come for me, she cried. They will destroy me. They will destroy you. The explorer's voice grew sharp. Let them try. He placed his hand on the lungs. These are not just wires and metal. They are defiance. They are proof that no law can chain a dream. The ruins trembled with silence. The woman stared at him as if seeing a fire she had forgotten existed. Slowly, she touched the machine. Her fingers brushed its surface. For the first time in her life, she felt power waiting for her. Power her people had been denied for generations. She lifted her eyes to the stars. They burned above the ruins, silent witnesses to their vow. And she whispered, For her, I will fly. The explorer nodded. His heart steady, the path ahead was dangerous. The council's eyes would soon turn toward this broken world. But in that moment, fear did not matter. Hope had awakened. The dream of a poor alien girl now lived in her sister's breath. And the human who carried her words in his heart was ready to fight the galaxy itself. The revelation was clear. The dream was no longer only a memory. It had become a living promise, and nothing would ever silence it again. The ruins were no longer silent. They carried a heartbeat, faint but alive. The artificial lungs glowed in the dim light, waiting. The explorer and the alien woman sat side by side. Both knew the moment had come. The woman's hand shook as she touched the machine. Her breath rattled weakly, every inhale a struggle. Her people had called it a curse. The council had declared it unchangeable. But now, in the hands of a human, the curse was about to break. The explorer steadied her trembling fingers. You do not have to fear, he whispered. These are not just lungs. They are wings. Her eyes glistened with tears. For her, I will try, she said. The diary lay between them, open to the final words. If only someone could give me wings, I would never stop flying. The explorer worked carefully. He placed the machine against her chest. Metal fused with fragile flesh. Lights flickered, chambers filled, and the first artificial breath flowed through her. She gasped, her body jerking as air rushed in. For a moment, he feared he had failed. But then her chest rose and fell with strength she had never known. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted in shock. She inhaled again, deeper, stronger, freer. Tears streamed down her face. She clutched her chest, whispering, I can breathe. For the first time in my life, I can truly breathe. The explorer's own eyes burned. He had seen humans build ships, engines, weapons. But this was greater than all of them. He had given freedom where there had only been chains. And he had kept his promise to a forgotten child. The woman rose to her feet slowly, each breath steady and strong. She stepped outside the ruined shelter. The stars stretched endlessly above. For years they had been unreachable. Now with every inhale they felt closer. She raised her arms to the sky and whispered, For her, I will fly. Her voice carried through the ruins. It was not just her sister's voice anymore. It was every weak child silenced. Every dream buried, every hope denied. And now it was free. The explorer stood behind her, silent. The moment belonged to her. The girl's dream had passed into her blood, and together they had defied the galaxy. But far away, engines roared. The council's ships were coming. Lights blinked in the night sky, moving closer. The law had felt the ripple of defiance. Now it was coming to crush it. The woman turned to him, fear flashing in her eyes. They will destroy us, she whispered. The explorer shook his head. Let them come, he said. They cannot destroy a dream once it has taken flight. The ships descended, their lights casting shadows over the ruins. The explorer placed the diary into the woman's hands. Keep this close, he said. It is not just paper. It is proof. Proof that dreams cannot be erased. The ground shook as the council soldiers approached. Voices shouted, weapons gleamed. The woman's breath came strong and steady. No longer fragile, no longer weak, she stood tall, her sister's dream burning in her chest. The soldiers stormed into the ruins. They pointed weapons at the explorer, human. By law you are condemned, their leader barked. You have broken the sacred rule. But the explorer only smiled. His eyes steady, his voice calm. I gave her wings, he said. You cannot chain the sky. The soldiers hesitated. They looked at the woman, standing taller than she ever had. They saw the light in her eyes, the strength in her breath, and for a moment even they felt it. The power of a dream too pure to be broken. The leader's voice faltered. This is forbidden, he whispered. But his words carried no weight, for before him stood living proof that law was weaker than hope. The woman raised her head high, her sister's diary pressed against her chest, and she declared, she dreamed of the stars, and now I will carry her dream. You can kill us, but you cannot kill this. The soldiers did not fire. They lowered their weapons slowly, for in that moment even they knew they were witnessing something greater than law, something greater than empire. The explorer stood beside her. Together they faced the council's fury. But there was no fear, because the dream had already won. Above them the stars burned brighter. The sky seemed closer than ever, and in the silence that followed, it felt as though the lost girl herself was there, smiling, her voice echoing in the wind. If only someone could give me wings, I would never stop flying. And now, through her sister, through a human's heart, she was flying at last.